This is Binghamton Now on News Radio 1290 WNBF Binghamton and WNBF.com.
It's Monday morning, starting off a brand new work week, and we will see what happens. Anything can and will happen, and WNBF is here to reassure you. Don't be alarmed. No matter what happens, don't be alarmed. We're here for you at 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, online at WNBF.com. 607-772-1290. The commitment is to bring you calls. Many, many calls throughout the week. And let's get started. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Joe from Owego, at home today, not in the parking lot.
Morning, Joe.
I am considering items to generate a real election this fall, based on personal experience recently. Social Security disability claims, according to the robot, it's 200 days before it'll be considered, and 6 months later you may get paid. Interesting concept for Social Security. There's a gentleman who is interested in the significance of no-fault divorce, and in the past, the border legislation, which was the greatest thing, I guess, since sliced bread. But unfortunately, I haven't heard if he did respond to my offer to get together and discuss it. Late-term abortion. How many people are actually affected by late-term abortion? And the last item is timeshare ownership. Some of us, unfortunately, purchased them. We cannot dispose of them. The number I hear is 10 million owners, 8,500,000 of them are unhappy. Let's put these things together and find out what items really matter to the voters this year. Any questions, Bob?
No, I think you set the agenda. Now we'll open up the phone lines for people to address those issues.
It's just, to me, and I only found this out recently about the social disability claims, because if people lose their income and they have to have nursing home care and what have you, they could qualify under Medicare. But if it takes 200 days to process the claim and then 6 months to wait for reaction. But I was talking to the robot, so I'm not sure that's how it is. Someone may be able to clarify. Appreciate the time and the opportunity, and you'll be the sixth person to know when I get my CO2 detector, because I don't know whether to buy the $12 variety, the $26 variety, or the $44 variety. But
hey, go with the $44 variety. And your life is worth it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
Bob.
Thanks.
The opportunity.
Thank you. Yeah, given the choice, CO detectors. No, I ordered the one online for $4. They say $40. I'm sure my relatives are grateful that. Oh, he could have bought the $44 CO detector. That would have worked, but he was very price conscious and frugal. So, well, family will gather over at the Turk Filet, and we'll all have turkey sandwiches after the service. Thank you. He was frugal. 9:15, good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Tom from Mendwell. Good morning, Bob.
Good morning, Tom.
I just wanted to call. I never had the opportunity to call after the Trump trial there. I got to say, I think a lot of people were very discouraged on how the trial went. They weren't, the Trump's team weren't allowed to call witnesses. The judge not.
Wait a second. They called witnesses.
There were witnesses that they did not allow in.
Yeah, well, judge gets to have the final say. But Team Trump called lots of great witnesses, and unfortunately, they didn't really build a very persuasive case. I think the bottom line when it comes to Donald Trump is he should have gone for better attorneys, and he might have had a better outcome.
that everybody knew that they were going to do something to anything to convict him and to convict him on all 34 counts. But anyway, what I want to say is a lot of people did not like the verdict, and I got to say there were no protesting, there was no rioting, there was no looting, there was no burning cities, and that just separates how the conservatives are compared to the Democrats. And on top of that, they raised millions of dollars in a matter of hours.
So they say. I personally choose not to believe it. They can say whatever they want. They could say, we raised $1 billion within the first 12 hours after the verdict. They could say whatever they want. I don't believe them.
Well, I don't believe the way that the Democrats are pushing January 6th. Now you got Anderson Cooper spreading more blatant lies on the January 6th when all this information's already come out of how things really went down. You know, the biggest question is there was supposedly a pipe bomb near Kamala Harris. Whatever happened to that? That story just went under the rug. Weird. Just little things that don't add up. And then, like I said before, the biggest thing is if January 6th was everything the Democrats said, they would have released all the videos. And the reason why they didn't...
Instead, they released videos over to the guy who got fired by the Fox. So, you know, we've had this discussion about the videos in the past. The problem with the videos is some, if not all the videos, were released to a partisan who got fired by America's Most Wonderful News channel. So that alone demonstrates that something was terribly wrong. You're right. All the videos should have been released by now, and not to a select host who got fired from the most popular cable news show at the time. All those videos should not just be released to the media. They should be on a website called insurrection.gov, so we could all watch the videos at our leisure.
Right.
Yeah, you know, that's where I agree. You know, that a terrible, terrible injustice has occurred because the federal government did not release all the videos from what happened on January 6, 2021, and then some guy in Congress released the videos to a guy who ultimately was fired by the Fox News channel. You know, the optics don't look good.
Well, you know, the Democrats had full control of those videos for...
Well, I am not suggesting the Democrats did the right thing by withholding the videos. I'm suggesting, what's-his-face, who released videos to Tucker Carlson, I'm saying he did the exact wrong thing. If he wanted to demonstrate that he was a true patriot, he would have released all the videos to the American people simultaneously on a website called insurrection.gov.
Yeah.
So, you know, don't look at me. Don't look at me. I'm a journalist. I have called on the federal government to release all information. All information. All the video, all the investigative information that they have developed from the horrible, horrible crimes that occurred on January 6th. And still, too much of the information, the evidence, is being withheld from the American people.
Right. And you know, two things real quick. We got the Hunter Biden case. Let's see how that is treated compared to Trump. I think people are going to see a massive difference. Hunter Biden will be acquitted on everything, but that's a given. So you'll see the difference between Trump and Hunter, right? And then the other thing is, you know, very sad morning. 2 officers were shot, both surviving, in New York City by illegals. And let's keep an eye on that, and I guarantee you those 2 illegals will not be turned over to ICE, and they will be set free.
Well, I'm not sure what that has to do with Hunter Biden, but you're right. About 1:30 this morning, there were 2 NYPD officers who were shot, and fortunately, they will survive. I believe they're in stable condition now, according to the NYPD commissioner and New York's very talented mayor, former law enforcement person, by the way, the former NYPD person himself, Eric Adams. So he's highly regarded in the law enforcement community. He is, when they say support law enforcement, that's what New York City is about. I don't think New York City could support law enforcement more because they have a former NYPD employee as the mayor. So that shows you just how committed. How many Republican cities right now, major Republican cities with populations over 1 million, actually have a former police officer serving as mayor? So that demonstrates the commitment that the people of New York City have to law enforcement. So it's, as they say on NBC, it's a city of law and order. Don't laugh at me before I introduce you. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Bob, what a joke you are.
Hey, don't laugh at me. Don't laugh at me. Laugh with me.
Adams cares about law enforcement about as much as I care about you.
Well, then that's a heck of a lot. That's all the endorsement he needs. With that kind of endorsement, he's going to ride easily to a second term. He can't have a third term because there are term limits in New York City. But, yeah, he's probably going to be reelected because of his staunch commitment to the NYPD and all those who serve in law enforcement.
It's filibuster as usual.
What? Wait, what did you say?
Filibuster. Every time anybody calls, you have to start one of your 5-minute rants about nothing. Listen, I don't understand you. That guy just called and tried to make a point, and you just start with your liberal talking points. You say you have no talking points. You are a walking talking point. I don't get it. Why can't you just listen to the caller and say, yeah, that was bad. Those cops just got killed. No, you got to turn it into...
For one thing, yes, it was bad, but they didn't get killed. They're both going to survive. One, fortunately, was protected by his bullet-resistant vest, so they're not going to die. They're going to survive. I wouldn't be surprised that both of them will be back on the job within a matter of weeks. So we're thankful that the shooting that happened at about 1:30 this morning, that the officers were not grievously injured. So, you really, Bob, you need to know your facts.
Yeah, like you know any fact. Okay, here's why I really called. This has been eating me all weekend. I heard that Vinny say Friday that Trump belongs in Guantanamo Bay.
Gitmo. That's what they call it. Gitmo.
Yeah, I know. It's stupid. I know what they call it. That guy needs help. Him and Matt Ryan ought to get...
Well, everybody needs help. You need help. I need help. We all need help.
No, we don't. I don't. I got my mind where it's supposed to be. This country is going down the tubes, and you idiots keep saying Joe Biden's great. Yeah, that Vinny, when he said that, let a couple terrorists out to make room for Trump? Are you kidding me?
There's plenty of room at Gitmo. No terrorists need to be released from Gitmo. Last I knew, the federal government was supposed to have shut down Gitmo anyway. It's not supposed to still be in operation, but it is. And there's plenty of space. There's plenty of space for Donald Trump, Rudy Giuliani, anybody else who winds up being convicted. If they need to be incarcerated, there's plenty of room at Gitmo.
How about Hillary?
If she gets convicted of something, there's plenty of room for her and for her husband, any members of her family who get convicted. From what I understand, space is not the issue at Gitmo.
How are they going to get convicted when your side lets them do anything they want? Oh, my God, I wish there was some way to get you off the air.
Well, can't help you there. I'm in for the duration, my friend. Thank you, my friend. That's a story from Vestal making contemporary news. 9:26, another call Hi, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, it's Donald Trump.
Good morning, sir, and congratulations on your recent convictions.
Oh, I can't wait to go to jail because I am going to make it a great place. It's going to be the greatest jail ever.
Well, yeah, will you be accepting visitors? Will Stormy and some of the other friends you've made over the years be stopping by for visitation between midnight and 4 a.m.?
Hey, on a serious note, this is Vic from the Forks. I think this conviction might help Trump, and I know that it hurts America. We've never been so divided. And, you know, I do the TikTok thing. I'm on there all the time. And the comments you see and the celebration from the left. And, you know, I understand the reason for celebrating because they got what they wanted. But they're actually celebrating the death of America because that is what's going to happen. When you weaponize, and they did it now, they weaponize the justice system so where any new president can go after an ex-president who might be a threat or go after a competitor who might be a threat now. So it's been weaponized. That part's been done. And here's the sad part. They knew that they were eventually going to get them convicted of something, even though they're going to lose it in appeal. They got them convicted of something, and that's for the purpose of advertisement for the next campaign. But here's a really sad part, Bob. President Biden will never be brought up on charges, and they set it up for him when they announced that he was too far gone with dementia when the doctors announced that for him. They already set the precedent that he cannot be prosecuted for his crimes because he doesn't understand them. So he's going to pardon his boy. He's going to pardon his whole family from being prosecuted for crimes. And then he's not going to be prosecutable because he's dementia. But they're celebrating, Bob. They're celebrating.
There's no reason to celebrate. There is no reason to celebrate.
Well, it's sad that they are because
I can't.
Celebrating.
Hey, I'm not celebrating. I can just say there is absolutely no reason to celebrate.
Yeah,
Let me put it to you this way, Vic. It's a darn shame.
The country should be in mourning for our justice system.
It is. It's mourning in America. Monday morning.
No, Bob, I'm mourning. M-O-U.
No, I know what you meant, and I'm with you. I'm as sad as they come that a former president of the United States, Donald Trump, is now a convicted felon. I am very, very sad. I might be even sadder than his wife.
It's going to be overturned, but at least...
I don't know about that. I mean, we'll see. I don't make predictions. Only time will tell. But I commend, even though I'm disappointed that he was convicted, I commend the work of the 12 New Yorkers who went through a lot over the last month or so, listening to all the testimony, and then listening carefully to the judge's instructions and then coming forward with what they thought was a fair verdict. I respect the verdict of the jury. It's not that I saw it coming. You remember I said on this program that I doubted that he would be convicted of a single charge.
In this case, I don't respect the jury's decision. I can't prove it, and you know that, so don't ask me to prove it. But I think they were a Soros-formed jury. That's my opinion, Bob. And I think the prosecutor was Soros paid. I think the judge was definitely Soros paid.
Well, you can say it. You can say it all you want, but I'm not really going to allow you to use this program to spread vicious rumors that have no basis in fact.
There's a difference between rumors and opinion.
Well, I know, except the problem with opinion, and this is where, say, Fox News learned the hard way, they had a lot of opinionators who were going on and on and on ad nauseum about voting machines, and then because of the opinions that were clearly not supported by anything factual, Fox News wound up having to pay $787 million. So, yeah, opinions are one thing, and everybody has one. And thank goodness that they do, because what would we do without our opinion? But, and that is a big but, you can't keep putting forward false information on the radio with impunity and thinking that a thoughtful, sane host is going to allow it. We just can't allow things that are supported by zero facts.
Okay, as long as you brought up the voting machines, I just want to know how they got 30 more million votes.
We can't talk about it. Can't talk about it. Can't talk about it. The voting, not only is the voting over, the election's over, the results have been certified. America, as they say, has moved on. We're looking forward to the next insurrection after whatever side loses can't handle the truth. See, that's the problem with the January 6th insurrection, is it paved the way for future bad behavior by people who aren't satisfied with the voting results.
The problem with the whole January 6th incident is that a veteran was shot climbing through a window.
She should have known better. She had no business being inside the building. Now, of course, it's horrible that she lost her life. She lost her life primarily because she was in a building where she was not authorized to be.
Well, if it happened during the Trump administration,
we're not talking. It happened. Look, we know when it happened. It happened on January 6, 2021. Wait, it was during the Trump administration, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, just before the inauguration,
So anyway, so it happened during the Trump administration. So if anything, Donald Trump should apologize to her family. But again, it's not to minimize the loss of life. Every life is precious, and I continue to be saddened that even one person died in the middle of the chaos and the criminal trespass that was going on at the Capitol. It's tragic, and I know there's nothing we can say to her family and friends who are still mourning her loss, but the bottom line is, if she hadn't gone into the Capitol and been in a space where she shouldn't have been, she'd still be alive right now.
Yeah, I think they used deadly force for no reason.
I'm no law enforcement expert. I'm not a big fan of deadly force. I'm not in a position. I wasn't there, and I personally wish, and again, everybody can be a Monday morning quarterback, especially after a busy weekend, but I would say this, using my Monday morning quarterback hat, if I was there, I would not have employ deadly force under those circumstances. I would have found some way, whether it be a taser or pepper spray or something, that certainly could have deterred her from going into an area. We know what she was doing, and we all can agree what she was doing was wrong. It was illegal. But I will be the first to say she didn't deserve to die because of her illegal actions on January 6, 2021.
And let me make one quick reply, and then you can go on to your next caller. The man that shot her should face the same justice system that Donald Trump shot her, or that Donald Trump had to face. He should have been brought up on charges, and a jury should have decided his guilt or innocence in using deadly force. But it wasn't done. Why wasn't it done? Because he was a Democrat. That's the only reason why it wasn't done. And that's our justice system today. If you're a Democrat, you can go downtown Binghamton and shoot somebody, and they're going to arrest you in downtown Binghamton. But if you go to a Democrat judge and jury, you're going to get off with probation. That's the difference, Bob, and I believe that. I'm not going to get into the politics of local life here, but it's the truth, and it's evident to everybody, Bob. It's evident that the difference in the justice system, the way it is measured now, is the blindfold is off. The lady holding the balance of scales, the blindfold is off. She's laying on the floor, and the Democrats are stomping all over her body, all over her cast iron or bronze body. They're just stepping over it to get what they want using our justice system to destroy America.
Well, I appreciate your opinion, as always. It's 9:36 at News Radio, WNBF. This is Bob Joseph. We support law and order. This is the Justice Station. And I continue the tradition, the rich tradition that was started by my esteemed colleague, Bill Parker, who always said, right here on WNBF radio, if he said it once, he must have said it dozens of times, always respect the law. Let me repeat, always respect the law. If you're at the Capitol, and D.C. police or Capitol Police or whomever, people who are there, even security people, even if they aren't actually peace officers, but they're security, even if they're part-time or volunteer security people, always respect them. If they say you're in an area where you shouldn't be, you must leave, you must leave. You can go to court at some point in the future and litigate, and if you have a good attorney, maybe an attorney going to court could reach a settlement if it turns out they illegally barred you from trespassing at the U.S. Capitol. There could be a settlement. But in the meantime, if you show up at the United States Capitol in January or any other month, and you're in an area where the public is not authorized to be, then leave. Just leave. Express your displeasure with the media. I mean, the media will be there to cover it. Say, I have every right. I paid for the Capitol. I'm an American citizen. I should be able to trespass and be in any portion of that Capitol, including Nancy Pelosi's office, sitting in her chair and doing whatever I want, stealing podiums and things like that, because I'm an American. I help pay for that. Hey, tell it to Geraldo. Or Rachel, someone. The people in the media are here to help you convey your message to your fellow citizens. I'm also here for you to have a conversation, if you wish. 607-772-1290. I'm Bob Joseph. You're listening to Binghamton Now on WNBF. Moving forward at 9:41, let's take the calls in the order in which they're received. Let's go to the West Coast. Scotty, you're on the air.
Hey, Bobby, it's Scotty in Nueva España, as we called it a couple hundred years ago. How you doing?
Never better. Loving life. Looking forward to this week. It's going to be big, baby, big.
Big, baby, big. You know, had a great weekend. Was listening to some Springsteen, digging the New York Times online. You know, good stuff, Bobby. It's all good. Except we had a little bit of a fire out here. Fire season starts early.
I saw. I'm a little concerned. The early indications are this is going to be a long, hot summer.
Yeah. Now, Bobby, I'm going to play a feel-good song here really quick, my bumper music, to get everybody smile on their face.
Oh, you can't. Don't play music over the phone. It sounds like it's, how can I describe the audio quality? Less than stellar. But tell me what song you were attempting to play. Wait.
Did you like it?
No, I couldn't listen to it because it sounded bad. What song were you attempting to play?
God Bless America. Kate Smith, God Bless America.
She is good. By the way, I was always a fan. And I wish that the Mets would play that during every game.
Yeah, right?
How about this? Every time the Mets lose, they should play the album version of that.
Well, this was the Ed Sullivan version, so maybe that's why.
Oh, she was
bad.
She was an American treasure.
You know, while I was listening to Springsteen this weekend, reading the New York Times online, a thought came over me. The former guy, is he now known as a convicted former guy?
Somebody said that it now stands for TFG, now stands for the felon guy. I don't...
Well, 34 for 45. That's not a bad batting average, huh?
Well, yeah, it's too bad he didn't play for the Mets. I mean, the prosecutors ought to play for the Mets because that way they would always hit it out of the park.
You know, I was watching a program this week, and it was about Nicole Simpson. It was like a 6-hour program, you know, and there's a lot of similarities, I think, you know, between O.J., I'd hate to say it, and the convicted former guy. I mean, you know.
Well, for one thing, the felon guy, he never played for the Buffalo Bills, so there is one difference, as far as we know.
He probably claims he did, you know, telling how good he was.
Well, I bet back in 1994 he did own a white vehicle, but was probably, I don't know, a 1994 Yugo.
Yeah, well, you know, they would have gave him the number, O.J. was 32, the convicted former guy would be number 34, for the 34 felony convictions.
In jail, do they, when they give you your uniform in jail, or prison, I don't know which, when you're incarcerated and they assign you a uniform, is there a number on your back? I've only been in I've been in 2 jails in my life. One was Broome County and the other was Tioga, and that was only reporting. I recall seeing the people who were in the jails in their assigned clothing, which is actually nice. You don't have to worry about paying for your own clothes when you're incarcerated. But I don't recall that they actually had numbers on the back of their uniform.
I thought they did. I know Orange is the New Black. I'll have to watch a couple of those episodes and see if they have numbers on there. But you know, everybody's talking about, oh, you know, the election is going to determine his guilt or not. I think St. Peter is going to determine his guilt or not when he says, you know what, you see O.J. and the guy with the mustache over there, the corporal from Germany, go over in their corner and down with them.
Oh. Yeah, that is so harsh.
And, you know, if one of your prior callers was talking about the poor woman who got shot at the Capitol who shouldn't have been there, who got her killed, Bobby? Who got her killed?
Well, that's the thing. If anybody may owe the woman an apology, or the woman's family and friends an apology, it's probably the guy who encouraged people like her to show up on January 6th. I am of the opinion, and I emphasize this is my opinion, it's my opinion that if he hadn't urged people to show up and say that it would be wild, that she probably would have stayed at home, and probably, we'll just say, she would still be with us. So I would say that an apology could be in order.
Ryan Sicknick and her and other people, I mean, he's got blood on his hands, and, you know, I don't understand. I just don't understand the love affair. But then again, after O.J., look at that. You know, people were cheering when he was acquitted.
I know. It's, you know, America, and we are the greatest country. There is no question of the greatness of this country. And America, no one even comes close, of course. I mean, Canada might think that they, in some ways, are like us, and in some ways they are, because they take all the best that is from the United States and appropriate it. But, no, we're the best. But still, the way some Americans behave after court verdicts is mystifying to me.
Land of opportunity, America. That's why everybody wants to come here.
Yeah, plenty of opportunity, man. And I welcome people. If you're listening outside the United States today, I encourage you to come here, because this is the place of opportunity for all on this planet. You know, the planet has nearly 8 billion people. Come on in, kids. We got room.
You know, I got a quick observation, Bobby. The owner of Chobani, Hamdi Yukukal, I believe his name is, the Turkish immigrant, he ended up buying.
I saw Anchor Beer.
Yeah. Anchor Beer, which is, you know, big institution in San Francisco. God bless them. And I heard that Chobani, 30% of their workforce is immigrants and refugees. I mean, God, and, you know, he's going to come out here and he's going to work his magic on Anchor's team, and he's already a hero. San Francisco should give him a ticker tape.
They may do it. And who's to say, to improve national distribution, who's to say going forward that he won't choose to open a production facility right here in Binghamton to help serve the East Coast distribution needs for Anchor.
A couple closed down breweries, right? Isn't Galaxy?
Sure, right. They could, Anchor Steam could be produced right here on Court Street, exactly 93 steps from where I'm standing.
Well, depends if you're how big your steps are, I guess.
Yeah, I've counted them off before. They still have their beer production equipment in there. My guess is because it's been idle now for about 5 years, it probably needs a good deep cleaning. But I imagine with the appropriate cleaning and a mechanical once-over, I bet they could be producing beer in that place on Court Street within 30 to 60 days.
By July 4th.
Yes. Celebrate America with Anchor Steam, now produced in Binghamton.
Have you ever thrown out the first pitch at a Binghamton Rumble Ponies game?
No, I've never been invited. You know, all they have to do is invite me.
And you do it. Okay, I'll put that out there to the Rumble Ponies. I'm sure they're
I'm sure they're listening.
Yeah.
All right.
What about a Bob Joseph Day parade going right down Main Street?
Yeah, well, let's do that. I like that. And we could start right there at the Masonic Temple.
Last observation, Bobby, and then I'll let you go on to your next caller.
All right.
So, I know at one time there was some talk about naming a street in Binghamton Donald Trump Street, correct?
Yeah, John from Binghamton came up with the idea, and it ultimately, I'll tell you what, that actually wound up being featured in your favorite newspaper, the New York Times. They, for some reason, and hold on, I'll find the story for you. They picked up the story, and this is it. It showed up. You know me. I'm there just, as always, just trying to soak in the information on Sunday morning. So on April 8th, 2017, there's an opinion piece. On the cover of the opinion section of the Sunday Times, it says the myth of Main Street. It says shortly after Donald Trump was elected president, John Solak, a resident of Binghamton, New York, began lobbying the city to rename its Main Street Trump Street. Mr. Solak explained to a Binghamton radio station, which has the New York Times always, when it comes to WNBF, they always just say we're a Binghamton radio station. They can't ever mention the call letters. He mentioned the blight of upstate New York and the economy here. And so that actually made the Times. The idea from John from Binghamton to rename Main Street in honor of Donald Trump.
But, you know, I have a brilliant idea, but sometimes, once in a great moon, I'll get once in a blue moon, I'll get a great idea. But what do you call a person who picks up a prostitute? Isn't that known as John? A John. Oh. Isn't there? Binghamton has a John Street, right?
we already, I think John Street is over on the south side.
Bada bing, man. There's your convicted former guy.
Stop.
Him, right?
Oh, that is so.
Right?
That's so wrong.
It's brilliant.
No.
It's pure brilliance. Come on, man.
Come on, man. Scotty, I represent that.
The prostitution rest, Bobby.
Yeah, thank you. Jeez. Yeah, I'm looking on the map there. There's John Street. It's not a very big street. About the size, I can't say that. It's not a big street. As streets go in Binghamton, it's a tiny street. But there it is, over on the south side. It runs between Conklin Avenue and Evans Street. Look it up on your maps. It's Bob Joseph Live, serving America. Because patriotism, especially this year, is what it's about. Binghamton Now, WNBF. Let's take a call. This is to North Carolina. Our North Carolina line, Bill, somewhere between Cherryville and Pineville. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. Got a few things I guess I want to mention. You had a guest on, the King of Endicott. He put out a musical album. It was recently.
Yeah, Gary Wilson. He's the King of Endicott. He joined us from out in, I think he is in San Diego right now.
Yeah. Well, his music is on Pandora, and I was checking it out. That's pretty good. I like it.
I like it too. I don't listen to a lot of music online, but every once in a while I'll punch up some Gary Wilson music. I think it's really good.
I liked it too. I mean, you wouldn't find it on WAAL or anything like that, but maybe WHRW. But
I think I've heard it on the Binghamton University station. It's definitely alternative or eclectic or whatever, but it's very good.
Yeah. Also, I was just curious. So you had a couple people mention some bad words on the radio that got through your button. Just curious, what happens when, like, if one makes it through? Does the FCC come knocking at your door?
As long as it doesn't get on the air. They didn't get on the air. They may have gotten on the stream, but they don't get on the air.
Oh, okay.
All right? So, it's important that they not get on the air at 92.1 FM or 1290 AM. And that's the bottom line. More coming up next here on WNBF. This is News Radio, WNBF 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com. Joined now by Johnson City Mayor Martin Maney. Good morning.
Good morning, Bob. How are you doing today?
I am well. Thanks for coming on again and answering a few of the questions about things happening in the village.
No problem.
First up, and we did do an update a few days ago, I think about a week ago, about the ongoing saga of the Workers' Arch. Bring our listeners up to speed in case they haven't been following along over the last couple of months with where things stand with the efforts to repair and stabilize the structure that was built about 104 years ago.
Well, the village and right now Lupini Construction, we have worked with a pertinacious resistance to these interruptions. It's just one thing after another. The superstructure, which is coated in lead paint, you can see now the steel frame, that has to come down and that has to be reconstructed as well. The good news is that the two bases on each side are solid and they're salvageable. So that hopefully gets us moving forward where we will put steel caps on those, and we're having the superstructure or frame designed now, and that will be built, and then it'll come in one piece and it'll be lifted on. And while that's going on, the stones that need to be redone are out to be redone, and the ones that are salvageable are stored here at Village Hall, and they can get that stonework back up, and hopefully we have no more interruptions, that this project will proceed and will be done before the end of the construction season. I know it's it's an inconvenience with Main Street being closed for everybody involved, but it's been closed since April now. We're into June. A couple more months, we'll get through this, and the arch is going to look like it did back when it was first done in 1920.
So the question, in addition to status of Main Street, the question we often hear with respect to this arch project is how much more is it likely to cost? And I'm guessing that's a question that can't be completely answered at this point.
We did have enough funds to do the arch, and when the bids came in, what they did, we've got a little extra. Now we are definitely going to overrun what we had set aside, but working with the state, with the Greater Binghamton Fund, once we have a solid number, we'll be able to go to the Greater Binghamton Fund, and they believe that they have enough resources left in the fund that they could pick up the overage on the arch as well. So that's the good news. Is hopefully it has a very minimal impact to the taxpayers of the village.
All right, and just to make sure, because some people think, well, if there are times when work is sort of paused, where there won't be periods of active work at the site, I know people say, well, can't you reopen Main Street for some period of time and then close it up again when work at the site resumes? Is that anything that's feasible, or is it ultimately Main Street will just remain closed until the project's completed?
I really don't have a good answer for that. There's people far smarter than me, the engineers, that will make those determinations. If everything is structurally sound, again, it's a safety issue. We don't want anybody driving through there or walking through there and have them get hurt. That's the main reason. And when you see that there's really very little construction going on site, remember that there's a lot going on off site that will help get this open quicker.
Okay. And I know it's obviously not only does it affect traffic, but it affects businesses, people that operate the Stop and Shop just to the west of the Arch have told me. I've stopped in a few times since the project began, and it's tough to see. I mean, a lot of their traffic, the customers that they might normally get, they say it's been affected because of the road closure.
Yes, but there's also the people that live. There's this small little street called Beverly Place, which is right before the Arch, and these people have been inconvenienced because people aren't paying attention to the signs that say street closed, bridge closed, road closed, anything that says closed. Nobody's paying attention to until they get there, and it says closed local traffic only. So they turn right up Beverly Place, and they think they could get through to Floral Ave, and it's a beautiful wee little street, and it's a dead end. And so that's created a negative impact for the residents there. But you talk to the residents and we say, well, we have to maintain the road open because the businesses just past this right before the construction site, but just past your street have been negatively impacted. And we want to make sure that they can sustain business. And the residents on that street say, well, these places are busy all the time, whether it's the car wash or the convenience store that's right there. So I honestly don't know, who do you believe?
Well, it all is your perspective too. If you live on,
right.
And I was the one. I'm so proud that I called Beverly Place Binghamton's Forgotten Street because, as you know, and as our listeners who live on Beverly Place know, part of it is in Johnson City, the village, and then part of it is in the city of Binghamton, and it's just it's a very unusual situation there, and let's face it, till the average person who never even was aware of its existence, and they stumble on it because of the detour, and they go,
correct.
Well, I thought I could just cut right over to Floral Avenue, and of course you can't.
No, and it's a beautiful wee little street. I mean, if the first third's the village and the last 2/3 is the city.
I know, I love it. That's what 6 of the 10 houses, I guess, are Binghamton, but yeah, it's one of those. I'm not aware of any other street in Binghamton or Johnson City quite like that, where say if Binghamton police get a call for the city portion of Beverly Place, they have to actually go under the Arch. Well, that's another thing. I hadn't even thought about law enforcement. So now Binghamton police, if they do get a call from somebody on the city portion of Beverly Place, and they have to go through the back way to get. I hadn't even thought about that. That's why Binghamton police should get a little helicopter. That way they could stage the helicopter on the city side, right near Pacemaker Steel. And if they have a call on Beverly Place, I shouldn't give people ideas. Someone will say, that's a good idea.
No, that's no bueno.
No, Bob, that's a bad idea. It's 10:18. We're talking with Johnson City Mayor Martin Maney. Speaking of road changes, and we had talked about this for months, but it finally happened at Wegmans. Of course, the extra left turn lane was installed several months ago, and I thought, that's great. That'll solve all of the world's problems, because Wegmans, for some reason, at certain times of the day, Wegmans seems to be attracting a lot of people coming in all at once, and so the decision was made to have the additional left turn lane, and I thought, okay, well, that'll deal with traffic stacking up to 201. But one thing that wasn't done until recently is putting up new signage to actually show people who are heading west on Harry L. Drive, yes, you can use both of those lanes, because some people just never would use the extra left turn lane. But now the new sign is in place, and I think that's potentially helping people to understand how this is supposed to work.
The issue, again, the signs would have been in place sooner, but it takes a long time to get them approved by the state and then to have them painted and then put up. And I think people had gotten into a pattern with the double left, but now the signage just is really reinforcing the traffic flow through there. And it really has had a positive impact, because there's not as much congestion at 201 in Reynolds Road and Harry L. Drive right there, because a lot of times that people coming off 201 to turn left to get to Wegmans would back up traffic and create somewhat of a gridlock there. So now that seems to have eased the impact there. Let's hope it continues to move forward and and people will be able to navigate there with less difficulty.
Well, traffic is likely to be a continuing concern going forward because of the additional businesses that will be opening up in the months ahead at Oakdale Commons on the other side of Harry L. Drive. So you've got not just the traffic going to the grocery store, but also probably higher traffic volume with the House of Sport and with Dave & Buster's that'll be opening soon, and certainly a lot of the other existing enterprises at Oakdale Commons. Are you and the police department making any specific plans? We've touched on this in the past because, as we know, the Oakdale Commons project is still a work in progress. It's not really that close to being completed. More businesses and other tenants will be setting up shop there over the next couple of years. What's going to happen in terms of traffic at that intersection with the 201, Harry L. Drive and Reynolds Road?
Well, I'm sure at some point that there's going to have to be a traffic study done and that revisited. Back in the mall's heyday, there were, 120 stores in the mall? And that intersection handled that. Sometimes 201 would be backed up quite a bit, as would Reynolds Road. The timing of those lights through there, that's all done by New York State DOT. They time those lights. So, there's nothing that the village does as far as the timing of the lights, but I'm sure that intersection was redesigned in the 80s, that it might need to be looked at again at some point in the future, and some type of redesign might be the best thing to could happen through there to handle the additional traffic flow that we're anticipating.
What's the next big business that's slated to open at Oakdale Commons?
I know Dave & Buster's is looking to open up sometime in the next couple of months. Other than that, it's been very quiet over there. So I'm sure, I'm hoping, I'm staying positive that Spark LLC has got the next big endeavor lined right up, and they're just maybe waiting for Dave & Buster's to open so they don't steal anything from them, and maybe we'll see an announcement soon. Anything about restaurants? I haven't heard anything, Bob. Nothing's come to the Planning and Zoning Board that I'm aware of. There's rumors that Five Guys was possibly looking to go in there. I don't know if that's still rumor or fact. But other than that, I've not heard anything as far as the restaurant goes. And still no hope for chicken sandwiches. Time will tell. That's what people tell me. People on the inside say, Bob, you bide your time, and you will know at the right time. We'll let you know when it's time to talk about that. You're my first phone call if I ever find out when and if we're going to have chicken sandwiches at the mall or the Commons. It wouldn't surprise me. And it wouldn't surprise me that they shock the world, too, by having chicken sandwiches on Sunday. You'd have to watch out for that, because then it would become a destination. If it's the only place of its type that's offering chicken sandwiches on Sunday, then Johnson City will be on everyone's map. So I think we're doing pretty good now being on everyone's map, to be honest with you, Bob. It's a nice time for the village. There's a lot of positive things happening, a lot of good growth. Well, speaking of another thing that is being built in that general area, and I don't know that it's the biggest thing, but it's interesting to me because the site where Friendly's had been for so many decades, we covered that story when Friendly's closed, and then plans were announced for a new business. What's going on there with the construction at that site? It seems like it's going to be a splash car wash, and it seems like it's moving along nicely. And again, the complaint department gets the calls. What do we need another car wash on Harry L. Drive for? Why are you guys allowing that? Well, the village itself has no control over what somebody wants to put in on a commercial site or a residential site, as long as it meets the standards of our zoning and code. And again, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are more intelligent than we are that say, okay, we did a market analysis, a market study. Is this sustainable? Is this feasible? Can we make money? And they do that before they even decide to look at an area to purchase a site. So, again, yes, there's going to be 3 car washes within 1,000 feet of each other. And, we'll see what happens, where it takes them. Hopefully it's a good thing with the traffic volume over there. It might be very convenient for a lot of people who want to zip in and get their car washed on their way to Wegmans or on their way to the Commons. Well, bottom line, I think they paid good money for that site. I don't think that
I don't think that site where Friendly's had been located was cheap.
Oh, real estate over there is probably not
some of the most expensive real estate in Broome County.
Yes, you're not wrong.
But so this brings up an interesting point. So you as mayor, and I'm sure maybe other village officials too, probably do hear from people when a business is announced, whether it's a car wash or anything else. Well, why don't you put in this or that? And I hear this too as a reporter. If I'm reporting on some new business or a business that's closing to make way for potentially the next big thing from a business standpoint, and I hear quite often, well, they ought to put in whatever. And it's like, yeah, they ought to. But it's not up to them. It's not up to Johnson City, is it? I mean, it's private enterprise deciding what works best with a particular site.
You're 100% correct. It's just again, if somebody says they want to build something and it meets our zoning and codes, then there's nothing we can say you can't or you can. And we don't have a say. We can't say, well, no, you can't build it because there's 6 in Vestal and there's 3 in Binghamton, there's 2 in Endicott. That's not in our purview. We just, again, if it meets our standards, then they could develop whatever they'd like to develop.
And ultimately, it'll sink or swim. If there's a need ultimately for 2 more car washes in that part of Johnson City, then somebody is liable to build them. As they say, build them and they will come. Or if people do invest a lot of money in car washes or whatever else and it doesn't fly, well, ultimately we'll see that. I mean, that's the nature of competition.
Correct. That's free enterprise.
It's 10:27. We're talking about Johnson City this morning with Village Mayor Martin Maney. We have more to come on Binghamton Now, right here on WNBF. It's 10:30. We're talking with Johnson City Mayor Martin Maney. Let's talk about residential projects. One of the biggest proposed projects that the village is considering now is the redevelopment of the Davis College campus. And a lot of people turned out a few days ago for the public hearing on the proposal to put in several dozen apartments at the former Davis College site. Where do things stand?
They stand right now at a standstill. We had a public hearing that was last Tuesday, and we held the public hearing open because there were a lot of people in attendance, which was nice to see. The developers were there, and there was a lot of good back and forth. The 400 Riverside Drive, or it was known Davis College or Practical Bible School. It hasn't got down into the woebegone state yet, but we want to make sure that it doesn't get there, and these developers are looking to keep it. It's going to be called Riverside Gardens, and for those that have lived here in Johnson City, it won't be the first Riverside Gardens on Riverside Drive in Johnson City. It's actually going to be the second one, and their development, there is some market rate apartments, and they want to open the cafe back up and utilize the gymnasium that's there. And the people that were there just wanted reassurance as well. Are you going to keep it park-like? And yes, they want to keep it park-like, hence the Riverside Gardens. And there's some trees that have to come down, and what's going to be done with that, fencing and landscaping, and all really good questions and concerns about the impact to traffic and how traffic patterns might change. And they did those studies, and since the meeting was so well attended and there were so many questions, we felt it was best to hold the public hearing open. So when we start our work session at 6 o'clock on Tuesday, June 18th, the first order of business is to reconvene the public hearing. And if there's any more questions or any further discussion that we'll be able to deal with it at that time, then the village board will, there'll be a resolution on our agenda to approve the PUD.
So when the prospective developers were on the program last Tuesday, I asked them if they thought that this proposal would require any really significant infrastructure upgrades in that area, 400 Riverside Drive. What is your take as mayor in terms of just the basic stuff, water, sewer, and so on, if they're planning to put in potentially about 75 units of housing? Is there an infrastructure issue from the village's standpoint?
There should not be, because we have to remember, I mean, that was a campus. And one of the largest buildings, Mason Hall, which is on Ryle, it borders Ryle Ave, and the campus, that was part of it, and that's been parceled off. That was sold separately, so that is not part of the redevelopment there. But as far as the utilities, the village was able to provide more than adequate utilities to Davis College when it was a college, and it was probably had a higher population density than what's going to be there when they put these apartments. Because you have to understand, the brunt of these apartments are going to be studio or one bedroom. I mean, that's the majority of the apartments. So, it's not going to be a 3-bedroom where you're going to have a family of 6 or 8 people living. It's just going to be 1 to 2 people occupying the majority of the apartments.
Might be more cars involved.
That's correct, but you have to understand that Riverside Drive is a county road, and they did a study. They had the state come in and do a queuing study, and at this time, the state said that there's no issue with queuing, and time will tell. At some point, may there need to be a traffic control device on Riverside Drive at the entrance to that? I wouldn't rule that out. I don't know. But according to the engineers that did the traffic study, that there's enough room for the queuing, so it will not be an issue. I mean, right now, it's difficult sometimes because I'm going to blab and say one of the best kept secrets in the world is the post office there. But I know when I go to the post office there that 90% of the time I'm going to have to turn right to exit because there's just too much oncoming traffic to take a left.
I was going to mention that at many times of the day, just because of traffic volume that's coming from the 201 roundabout, that kind of traffic volume, plus the traffic heading west toward the roundabout. Sometimes, exactly, if you want to make a left turn or if you want to head back west, doing it directly just really isn't feasible unless you're planning maybe to wait a couple of minutes for a break in traffic.
Right. So that's, and it's just, I guess, knowing your destination and knowing, the easiest and best routes to take. And I'm sure there'll be a higher volume of cars going into it, but there's some small streets over there, Sunset Knoll, which is a nice little street, Edward Street, where they were very in tune with the residents' concerns about traffic dumping onto their streets. So they're going to work, come up with some good solutions that would ease those concerns.
A couple of other housing projects that are in the works in Johnson City. Of course, 333 Grand Avenue, I will always call it the Philly site, where Philadelphia Sales had a store there for decades. And funding for that, the state component, has been approved for Regan Development.
Yes, two parts of the funding mechanism from the state. They received $1 million from the DRI, and I think close to $11 million from HCR. And I have not been by that site recently, so I don't know if they've broke ground yet, but I know that they have to start within a certain period of time. And I don't know if that period of time is when they announce the awards or the funds are actually deposited in the accounts. I know the DRI, the funding for the DRI, you cannot do any work prior to the approval from the state committee saying, go ahead, start your project. And there's 3 different state committees or state departments that work on the DRI. I don't know which one. I'm sure it's going to be HCR that gets this portion of the DRI money that Regan Development's getting to do 333 Grand Ave. But I don't think that any state agency has reached out to any of the awardees to say, all right, go ahead and start your project.
Another project, and there hasn't been, at least publicly, much movement reported at the old Johnson City High School building, the NIPEN Trade Center at 435 Main Street. Is that something that's still alive? Or
it is very much
developers
alive.
Still want to do it?
Yes, they do. It's very much alive, and again, they received $1.15 million from the DRI, and I'm sure again they're waiting for what state agency is going to reach out to them and say, okay, your project's approved, go ahead and start your project. And I understand, that these 2 construction projects, they're large projects. So how much is the DRI funding going to really impact? It's going to have minimal because you're talking tens of millions of dollars for both of these projects. However, I'm sure that they want to make sure that all their funding mechanisms are lined up before they start. And both are exciting. I think it's really going to be something to see the redevelopment of 333 Grand Ave. And during our DRI project, everybody was really like, the old high school, the Knight Penn Train Center, 435 Main Street, however you want to identify it as. They're like, that's really a beautiful structure, and hopefully somebody steps in and salvages that and saves it. So, both projects are going to be awesome. And it's just, again, we are a pro-housing community, one of the first awarded with the state, and, there's a need statewide for housing, whether it's market rate to workforce. It's going to be a good thing. It's going to increase our housing stock.
It's quite a list of projects there included in DRI funding, $9.7 million, including a lot of small projects that people may not have heard about. Let's talk about some of those smaller projects that haven't received as much attention.
Well, I'll speak specifically to a couple that the village is. We have the Wilboro Alley, which is a small alley that runs behind some businesses in our parking lot on Willow, and the businesses are on Main Street that we received the funding to go ahead to close that off to vehicular traffic, not that it's well traveled, and to make it a gathering space. So it's going to be something that'll bring people into the downtown and hopefully keep them there for a little bit, and it'll help the businesses out. The park next to the library, Workers Park, we received funding to redevelop that, and that's going to be really an exciting project, and hopefully people will be happy with what they see there. A lot of the Main Street, the storefronts, the IBEW, they've received grants to redo the front of theirs. Let's see, 250. Just trying to get the addresses right.
240 Main Street.
240 Main Street.
Yep.
That's slated to, I think that's Dave Whalen has got that, and he received funding to start his projects there. And there's smaller projects that were like $30,000, $40,000 for like Gabrielle's Bakery wanted to redo their store area so they could put I think another freezer in and do an outback seating area. So those smaller projects, we'll start administering those as well. Streetscapes to kind of similar to what they did on State Street in Binghamton, the State Street, that we're looking to do that on Main Street, where we're going to build out the crosswalks so there's less travel and might have open up for more seating on the sidewalks, and there'll be better lighting, and there's going to be plants and some infrastructure to retain stormwater so it's not running off and ponding in the street. Blade signs for businesses where people could look down for wayfinding and see, okay, I can see the signs for the businesses. I know where I'm going. Just a bunch of different projects. Again, all exciting.
Well, there's also
Babies is part of it, and HCA is they got a nice piece of it to redevelop a portion of their building.
Well, there's also because there's been talk for the last few years about developing space over at 135 Baldwin Street for Binghamton Brewing, which had been located in the old EJ fire station. So $300,000 has been allocated for that.
Yes.
What have you heard anything more about the status of that project?
The last time they came to a meeting, they said that they were moving forward there in the Century Sunrise Complex. And they're moving forward. They were doing work. So, again, it's just as we know, the wheels of government turn slow. Sometimes they seem to be going backwards. But I'm sure, again, there's three. There's Department of State, HCR, and I can't remember the third. Maybe it's the REDC, Regional Economic Development Council. They have to reach out to these sponsors for their projects, and then again they approve it and they say, all right, go ahead and start. So as soon as that process is done, it's going to be, hopefully we see a quick, a good, fast transition. And again, it's going to hopefully some of the storefronts on Main Street, they're going to start to be populated, and people are going to see more growth down through Main Street. I mean, just the new pizza shop that opened on Main Street a couple weeks back. No grand opening, no ribbon cutting,
yeah,
no
they just
fanfare,
opened.
no advertising. They sell out of pizzas every day.
Yeah, I saw a sign, or I don't know if it was online or a sign said, "Yeah, we're out of pizza now, but we'll be open Tuesday or whatever." So it sounds like people have heard about it, even though they didn't have a big splashy media event.
Exactly. So that just shows that there's a population on Main Street now that's walking through. It's becoming more densely populated, and people are stepping off the UHS campus and the BU campus, and they're exploring Main Street. So that just shows that it's turning. You know, there's life there. There's vibrancy. You know, it's like stepping into the age of the Victrola into digital audio. You know, it's coming, it's happening, and it's going to happen fast.
Talking with Johnson City Mayor Martin Maney, 15 Avenue B. I drive by there every day, and I still see nothing happening. It seems like we've been reporting on the future of this site for a long time. Now that also has received some money under the DRI. So what might happen there? Is there still a likelihood that's going to be revitalized, or is that plan on hold?
According to what he submitted for the DRI, 15 Avenue B, I want to make sure that's the old EJ Fire Prevention. That's where Binghamton Brewery was. We're talking about the same building, correct, Bob?
Right.
Yes, that he wants to take the funds to put in a retail space, retail/commercial, and to refurbish the apartments up above.
So they actually would have housing where they were making beer, say 5 or 6 years ago.
Well, actually, there was housing there before. It was up above. The brewery was just located on the first floor,
ground level. Okay. Well, I never paid too much attention on the second floor. I mean, I noticed there was a second floor. I didn't. Now that I think about it, I guess there were mailboxes there. But no, I just never really thought that some people were already living in part of the building.
Yeah. No, it's again, all these projects, they're good projects. When we as a committee sorted everything out and we submitted to the state, and the state funded every project we submitted, with the exception of it, unfortunately, and I don't know why that's out of our control. We just did our best to submit the proposals, but the Goodwill Theater project was the only project that didn't get funded in this DRI. So again, that's the decisions that were made by the state, not us. So I really can't offer an opinion as to why it wasn't funded, but every other project that we submitted received some money.
Now, also on Avenue B, there's been a project. The village had been hoping that this project directly across from Victory Lofts would come to fruition, but what are you hearing about that? Because at one point, and they called it the Box Toe Factory, EJ's old Box Toe Factory, but apparently nothing is happening over there. Yeah. Now I call it the Dinosaur Building because the dinosaur mural on the west side.
Right. Unfortunately, the developer backed away from that project. He just felt with, and there was some, and he did it because he didn't think it was sustainable with the interest rates now and how things were going, where there was enough margin for profit. So he walked away, and he wanted to walk away instead of holding out hope because there was ARP funding that was tied to that the county was going to give them, and he wanted that funding freed up so it could go to other projects. He didn't want to hold it hostage because that ARPA funding has to all be spent, I believe, by the end of the next fiscal year. So he walked away from it. We still possess that building, and we will be putting out a new RFP, and hopefully we find somebody that's really looking to develop that and move it forward. And it's unfortunate that the developer walked away because it's just it would again.
And we're talking about Matthew Paulus, who did the big project there with 156 apartments at the old Victory Building. That at one point people were saying, "Oh, there was no hope for the building. That's got to come down." And now look, there are apartments and potentially some other things that will go into that renovated building. Yeah, no, he's got 156 occupied units. I mean, they're all occupied, and the building, just his vision for the restoration of it came out so well.
So we were excited that he was looking to do 19 Avenue B. But at the end of the day, he just felt that the numbers weren't right for him, and he didn't want to, hold the funding hostage, and so he let it go. So
when is the village going to seek new requests?
Now, we've already put out the RFP, so hopefully we'll start getting some good solid projects back.
Because I think it was 3 years ago that the village actually gave approval to sell that property to Mr. Paulus or his development company in Syracuse for $100,000 with the eye toward more apartments.
Yes. Yeah, he was, and who knows, the way things have turned, maybe it's a blessing in disguise where the village will be able to gain more than $100,000 on the sale of that, which would absolutely help out our books at the end of the day.
Talk more about Johnson City and upcoming projects in a moment. Our guest is the mayor, Martin Maney. We're live and local on WNBF. Moving forward with our conversation with the Johnson City mayor, Martin Maney. What about the former village office building at 243 Main Street? I did have the opportunity a few months ago to tour the place with you, top to bottom, and it's a fascinating place. Is that now on the market, or is it about to go on the market?
We're going to be putting it on the market very soon. We were actually being a little selfish, hoping your exposure of this building, and it's up and it's for sale, and the great job that you did getting it out there, that somebody would knock on our door and say, hey, we're really interested. But unfortunately, nobody knocked on the door. So we're going to start aggressively marketing that structure. And who knows, again, you were in there. It was such a unique layout that it's got potential to be many different things. And hopefully somebody sees the potential in that.
Yeah, it seems to me, and for people who didn't see our article in the photo gallery, it goes back to March 25th. You can look it up. But just the main floor, of course, still looks very similar to what the Marine Midland Bank looked like, say, in the 60s. And, of course, the big vault is there, and there are other safe areas throughout the building. So there were features that were unique to banks that were developed back in the 20th century. But the other thing that is really notable, it's a very solid building. Some aspects of it reminded me almost as a mini fortress, which is both good and potentially challenging for redevelopment, because of the nature of the building. I think you said, and I tended to agree, it's not as though it really lends itself to a housing project, because you need to have windows.
Yeah, correct. It's unless the structure immediately to the east, 511 Avenue C. I mean, hopefully at some point in the near future that structure comes down, and that'll open up that whole area where they could put windows in. But since everything on Main Street is a zero lot line, if the village doesn't maintain control of that, then somebody could come in and develop it and put up a 4-story or 3-story structure, which would then obscure all the windows on the east side. It's unique. I mean, we talked with Binghamton University, have them go through, maybe a small industrial incubator startup, and they looked at it and they didn't feel that it was, something that is in their near future. So, we'll entertain anybody to come through and look at it. At one time the county clerk treasurer, or the clerk for the county, Mr. Mahalko, came in and he walked around because he had ideas of maybe making it a central DMV and some storage space. And again, that would be an awesome setup for the DMV because there's ample parking and it's right in the middle of Main Street, and it's easy to get to. You don't have to worry about parking, and it's set up already because being a former bank, it had all the windows. The teller, that part of it stayed the same. So it would have been an easy transition for them. But, again, they didn't feel it was a good fit at the time.
What about, we only have about a minute left, but the old Oslid complex, I know Binghamton University has started some work there.
Yes, they're doing the asbestos abatement right now. And once they get that done, they'll move on to the next step of their program for that, which is to bring it back to life. And what they plan on putting in there yet is not still 100% solid. So I really can't comment on what their plans are for putting in there. They just want to get that building up and functional again.
And just to stress, at one point there was the possibility of a residential component, possible senior housing.
Right.
That isn't happening.
That's not part of it right now. No. That's something First Word Action Council was going to partner with Binghamton University, and again, they didn't feel that they could make the numbers work. And it's really have a minute left to just we didn't touch on one thing. Grand Ave is currently closed between Roberts and Baldwin because they're completely rebuilding that part of Grand Ave where we're separating the storm sewer from the sanitary sewer, and that's the last block that needs that. And for the listeners that are always wondering about the paving of Grand Ave, that section will be done, and then next year we will macadamize the rest of Grand Ave, and it's going to be nice and smooth and won't be like driving on the surface of the moon. I can't wait for it to happen either. It's just finally the funding is lining up, and all the construction will be done, and we'll be good to go on Grand Ave.
But that's going to confuse a lot of people when it's that smooth.
Yeah, right. This pothole was my landmark to turn.
Exactly. And then, of course, probably speeders, but I'm sure the village police will keep an eye on that as needed.
Yes, they will.
Well, appreciate the information on so many topics. We'll have you back on in a few weeks.
Excellent, Bob. It's always a pleasure. You enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
You as well. Johnson City Mayor Martin Maney, live and local here on News Radio, WNBF. And WNBF.com. 607-772-1290, and we will take as many calls as seems appropriate. Back to the phones we go. Andy in Johnson City, you're on the air.
Morning. I just wanted to follow up about Johnson City here. They're talking about all this renovation and stuff. I just want to let the people know, specifically for the north side of Johnson City, there's a village board meeting this 18th. I believe it starts at 7:30. It's on the computer. But it's, I don't know, I born and raised here, and I kind of not really had it out with the mayor, but if you drive around this area, there's so many houses going to disarray. It's not funny. The people don't mow their grass. Their houses are going to shambles. I just want to let people know if you have neighbors like that, or you see something that needs to be cleaned up, or you got a gripe or something. Last time I went to the village board meeting, I think there's like 4 people there with questions. 4 people, and nothing pertinent or anything. But you can't be a crusader. You can't. I tried it myself. I go down there to the village board meetings. Yeah, but if you had more people would voice. Everybody complains around here, but nobody does anything. I went to one specifically up the street, and I says, "Doesn't this house next to you bother you? The grass is almost over 2 foot tall." And yeah, it is. I called 3 times, but well, go to the meeting and voice your opinion here. They're starting all these. The Stari Kraju Jatus up here on the north side all died off. They used to keep their house really nice and everything, but now it's like turning into the south side. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, but it's
what really has to happen, and not just in Johnson City, but across the board in the communities here in Broome and Tioga counties, there has to be a real concerted effort to strongly encourage all property owners, people who own residential properties and commercial properties, whatever, or even just vacant lots. They really need to be strongly encouraged to take care of them. If they have neglected them in the past, then now is the time to get going on it, because as so many people have told me, all it takes is one neglected property on a street or a block, and it sort of becomes a cancer because it'll spread.
Sure. That's what's happening up here, and it's tried to bring it to the attention of the people, but I don't know. It's just, like I said, they all complain, and I'm with you 100%. That's why I wanted to tell these people about the 18th, is go to the village board meeting. God, they're not going to bite you down there, nothing. It's voice your opinion. Probably nothing will be done anyway, but,
something may be done. I mean, obviously the first thing that has to be done is for it to be brought to the attention of the appropriate people. And let's face it, whether you're talking about Johnson City, Endicott Vestal, Binghamton, or any of the other towns, Town of Union, whatever, they're big, and even the smallest communities are still big for the number of government employees, code enforcement people. They have to prioritize. So, sometimes if you at least shine a spotlight on a problem property, in some cases, maybe that's all an owner needs. It's probably not going to be that simple in most cases, but in some cases, maybe if they get a little bit of notoriety because it was brought up at a meeting, they'll finally say, well, I don't like owning a property that people are really unhappy with, so now maybe I'll do what I should have been doing all along.
Right. I agree with you. It's just, like you said, it just takes people to go down there and start to speak up.
Right. And I know I meant to touch on it. We touched on so many topics over the past hour with Mayor Maney. There were, I don't know how many properties at last week's special meeting that also got some attention by the village board, some real problem properties. And so they do, when possible, try to take action, but in some cases it's some people will regard it as too little or too late, but at least the properties that tend to be in the worst shape, and maybe that where people have complained the most, they at least will get some attention eventually. But you're right, if people go to their local government meeting and respectfully use the public comment portion of the meeting, and the thing is about whether it's a property issue or some other issue, you don't have to take up your full allotted time, whether it's 3 minutes or however long they give for individual speakers. You could probably make your point in about 1 minute and say, look, I live across from 123 Easy Street, and unfortunately living's not easy because it looks hideous, and not only is it affecting my property value, but it's affecting the rest of the neighborhood. So I wish to at least bring this to the attention of the village to see if something can be done. So you could say that. You could say that in 23 seconds, and they make note of it. They put it in the record, the minutes, and then we'll see if anything gets done. If nothing gets done, come back. There's no need to do a 3-hour radio show about a problem you have. Just at least bring it to their attention, and that's a beginning.
That's true. Thanks a lot, Bob, for hitting on that. I appreciate it. You hit the nail on the head when you said that. It's exactly right. And you can't just sit back and let this happen. That's what, pretty soon you're not going to stop it.
Absolutely.
You get to the point beyond repair already. But
thank you, Andy.
Thanks, Robert. Bye.
1118 WNBF. Bring it to the attention of the authorities. Some people will tell me, well, Bob, I have in the past, and they did nothing. Well, then go back and do it again. But continue to do it respectfully. Well, I was polite the first time and they did nothing, so I'm going to amp it up a little. Well, you could do it. You could take that tactic, but I'm not sure that will help your cause. Maybe if you get something off your chest, maybe you'll feel better, but I'm not sure that it necessarily means the problem will be addressed. But a lot of village boards and town boards and city council meetings or county legislature meetings, if you have a serious issue about government, you're allowed to speak. Now, one could argue, well, maybe they don't want lots and lots of speakers all the time. Well, maybe not. Now, admittedly, I've been to meetings. I'm going to a meeting tonight. I don't want meetings to last long. I want really short meetings. On the other hand, if there are things that need to be addressed, it may take a while. But at least things can get accomplished if people bring up the issue. IWNBF, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Carol from JC, and I have a few comments to make. I was so glad that I turned the radio on when Mayor Marty was on, because I think they're all doing a great job, except he talks really fast at the meetings. He could slow down a little bit. I hope he's still listening. And he failed to say that June 15th is going to be Johnson City night at the ballpark. And he is going to throw out the first pitch. I'm reading, I just happened to be reading the agenda from May 7th at the village board meeting, the May 7th agenda, and it's right in the announcements, and he is going to be throwing out the first pitch. And the important thing is that the team that's going to be visiting is the farm team for the Yankees, and I'm sure that was done intentionally, based on the Triple Cities triplets and not the Binghamton triplets, as they called them on Channel 12 News. They were the Triple Cities triplets, and their Binghamton jersey was worn when they were out of town because it was more of a well-known town than Johnson City or Endicott. But they had right on their sleeve, TC, intertwined TC, Triple Cities triplets. And I do have, I did memorize the number of apartments that they are going to be building at the, I still call it the Bible College area. Excuse me, I have to do that. And I will tell you what they are. I wrote it down as I was remembering. 64 single-bedroom apartments, 6 studio, 14 two-bedroom, and 3 three-bedroom. And the only people that showed up for that meeting about the Bible College apartments, or I should say Riverside Gardens, were the people that live up at the top of Edward Street at Sunset Knoll, because they were concerned about the traffic, going in and out.
Right.
That it was going to affect them.
Well, hopefully it won't have much.
No one from the bottom end of Edward Street showed up.
I'm looking at the map here to see. So I'm trying to remember Edward Street.
It's if you went straight up Edward, you would wind up in the Bible College parking lot.
Oh, I see now.
It intersects with a cute little street. There's only 2. Well, they were talking about driveways,
right,
or houses. There's only 2 driveways on Sunset Knoll.
Right.
That's the part between Edward and Riverside. There are some houses. I think, I'm not sure how many. 2, maybe 3. Right. I don't know how far back it goes, but that they are above Edward onto Sunset.
Yeah,
Knoll.
I like that. Actually, that is, I call it the secret way to get into Davis College, because whenever it was I think it was about 10 days ago, when I wanted to go to take some updated pictures for the story about the public hearing, that's the way that I went in. I usually go in the entrance right off Riverside Drive, but that was the way that I went into the Davis College campus. So, yeah, you're right. There's not much activity on that street right now.
Yeah, and of course, the post office. I think that they looked into the fact if the post office will be renewing their lease, and I believe they said that they will be.
Well, they might, but here's the
potential owners that has looked into
right.
it. Go ahead.
No, I think when the potential owners were on this program last Tuesday, that was one of the things they specified. That
I missed that.
Yeah, well, it was one of the greatest programs we've ever done. It's a shame that you missed. It was regarded as one of the top 5 programs I've ever done here at WNBF. And, hey, you miss a minute, you miss a lot. But they indicated, I believe, that they definitely want the post office to remain. So I think, and I don't know if the post office has signed another 5-year lease or has been offered. The thing I would say, the caution...
Yeah, the year wasn't mentioned. It was just they have renewed. That's all they said.
Right. Well, the cautionary note I would make about the post office, and this is not a prediction, but it's the truth about the U.S. Postal Service. That outfit doesn't like small post offices anymore. So, I mean, they remember, they closed the post office on Binghamton's west side.
Well, Vestal Avenue. No, Vestal Avenue is still open.
Yeah, that's still open on the south side. They closed the post office in Endwell. So they're on this spree of closing small post offices around the country. So I just want to say, as a caution to you and others who use that specific post office, Bible Park Station, the U.S. Postal Service still, at some point in the next couple of years, may choose to pull the plug. Remember, at one point, a few years ago, they were talking about that. They actually held a public meeting, and many people who used that post office came out to tell the Postal Service that they want the office to stay there. And I think they did reduce hours, but they kept it open. But I would be, and this is not a prediction, it's just a gut feeling, I'd be shocked if that post office is still open 5 years from now.
Yep. Well, I know and don't hang up on me, because I do have one more thing to say about the meeting with those people. But to talk about the post office, they do close down for an hour, and they do have their own zip code.
I know, 13737 is my favorite zip code.
Well, here's the
Except
thing.
for Endicott, 13760. Oh, in Johnson City, 13790.
Yes.
Oh, in Vestal, 13850.
Yes, 13850. I have to also make a comment about when they took questions from the audience. I guess the first question was, of course, about the traffic, getting in and out, and possibly making that street a one-way street, which would be the biggest mistake that they could make, is to have that be a one-way street. And I think they were just thinking of themselves. Of course, anybody would. I'm not criticizing them for that. But to make that a one-way street would be a mistake. The other thing, when they asked for questions, only because I've gone to village board meetings when I bought a house in 1985. So I have been going to those JC Village board meetings since 1985. And I wish I had the number in my head, how many I've missed, which hasn't been very many. And if anything interfered with it, it's because I went to a baseball, something to do with baseball, or I was going on the senior center bus trip or something. But anyway, one of the things that they talk about all the time are absent landlords. So when it was time to ask a question, I asked, where do you live? The two of them. And fortunately, they were born and lived here. Because that was a big concern of mine, is we don't need any more absentee landlords that don't reply to messages, mail, don't take care of their, they don't do their due diligence for the upkeep of their property. So you can rest easy that these two fellows are local people.
Well, we'll see what happens. I'm sure only good things are going to happen going forward. That's my opinion. Only good things will happen in the future in Johnson City. It's 1128, 607-772-1290. Would you like to be on the radio? I think you could, if you call. We're at 92.1 FM, 1290 AM, streaming at WNBF.com.
Hi, I'm
607-772-1290. Morning, you're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, good morning, Bob. This is Vinny from Binghamton.
Morning.
Yes, I wanted to talk about Donald Trump for a second. I heard him talk about if he goes to jail that there'd be some uprising in this country. I'll tell you, I was watching a clip on Charles Manson a couple months ago, and it talked about when he was in jail. He used to read that book by Dale Carnegie, How to Influence People and Get Along with Friends. And I'm looking at this guy, and I'm hearing what's coming out of his mouth, how he's trying to do everybody do his dirty work. And I think that's one of the things that's just one of the many things that upsets me about this person, and that attitude of how he tries to get other people to do all of his dirty work. If you ask if in these things and how he lies, if you add Donald Trump, you've said lock her up to Hillary Clinton. No, I haven't. Yes, you have. We've got tapes upon tapes but he just sits there and lies all the time. And I'm like, the danger of that is, like I said, once you get into, if you become president, you're down there with all those other snakes, and they're better than you. They know how it works, and that's where the corruption will be. But this whole thing with him is just incredible.
Lordy, I hope there are tapes.
I'm sorry?
Lordy, I hope there are tapes.
Tapes on what?
Tapes on Trump saying all the stuff he claims he hasn't said. That's the guy who says, I hope there are tapes. And every time that Donald Trump says something, denies something that he said, I always say, gee, I hope there are tapes.
Lordy, I hope there are tapes.
Yeah.
Because you know what? What the weird thing is, with tapes, or in this case now, computer files, they don't automatically self-destruct after 15 minutes or after 5 minutes. They're pretty much good forever. So if this guy said any time in the last 20 years, lock her up, well, sorry, buddy, we've got it. Well, no, you don't. I never said that. Yes, we do. Yes, you said it. We've lost track of the times. In fact, we're wasting so much storage space just keeping that on file because we knew at some point you were going to deny having said it. So fortunately, yes, my friend, there are tapes.
Lordy, I hope there are tapes.
And don't worry, there are more tapes. Here's another thing, by the way, Vinny.
Mm-hmm.
That guy better watch out because Billy Bush probably still has some more tapes from his bus that he never released yet. So just because Donald Trump got a pass for saying what he did to Billy Bush doesn't mean there aren't some other tapes that won't be released later this year. They could be even more exquisite. So, somebody told me that there are other tapes. Or not somebody told me, I read somewhere over the weekend that there might be some tapes of other stuff that this guy has said that would be, believe it or not, even worse than what was on the Billy Bush tape that shocked us in October of 2016. And maybe you've seen some of those reports too. I'm not gonna delve into it here because I can't corroborate it. But if any of those tapes ever come out, this guy, we couldn't say that it would wreck his campaign because he's the only person in American political history where evidently nothing he says or does gets him actually disqualified among his core supporters. So for some of his supporters, if some of these tapes, if they truly exist, if they are released, say in October, those supporters will be even more likely to send him their last penny or their last dime after those tapes are released. But that's sort of an indictment of those people who think saying stuff like that is actually something that's defendable. You can't defend some of the stuff he allegedly has said.
Well, Bob, that's the second part of this conversation for me is you can't defend it, and it's so pathetic. Now, I read already, I don't have it. I'll probably call him later this week and talk about it, but our own Congressman Molinaro, what he said. And
I heard him on the radio. I heard him on the radio this morning, and I'm driving to work, and I'm thinking, that's Mark Molinaro? But it was not AI. It was Mark Molinaro reacting to the verdict, and I thought, oh, my.
See, they're frauds. Like I said, we can all remember back when Hillary Clinton, lock her up, and Flynn was one of them. Of course, he got locked up. Okay? He locked her up. He got locked up.
Yeah, ironically.
Trump pardoned him. He pardoned him. He got him out of jail. These guys about law and order, and we got to back the troops, and we got to back the police. And now he's convicted, and now look at him. Oh, this whole system is corrupt. Oh, my God. Oh, it's terrible. Oh, yeah, because you went through it.
I know. It's so sad. It is. It really is a tragedy. It really, in my opinion, is tragic. 11:37 at WNBF. Let's try to squeeze in one more call before I wrap up today. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Wrap up. It's only 11:36. You're going to talk to me for a half hour?
No, I'm going to have to leave early, so make it fast.
Oh, you're leaving early?
I might. It's a nice day. I might, who is to know if I slither out of here early? Would you throw me under the bus and say, oh, Bob ended the show 10 or 15 minutes early? You wouldn't.
If I can do the bumper music to fill in.
This is Matt from Binghamton, the former Mayor Matthew Ryan. What's on your mind?
Still never played the song Where the Bottles Break by John Gorka.
Maybe soon.
Okay, so here's the deal. I agree with Vinny wholeheartedly, and it gets worse because I was listening to the Fox News station where Trump was being interviewed. They started it out by, you've called for locking up Hillary Clinton, blah, 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 blah. And, like it was a factual thing, which it is, and he's done it many times. Not only did he do it, he also, behind the scenes, when he became president, he said, this interview was so unhinged because he claimed that, once I beat her, so I decided, let's not do anything. He approached Bill Barr and tried to get him to go after Hillary Clinton after he was elected president. That's a fact, too. So what's really upsetting about the whole scene is, for those people who only watch one station, is so the news guy doesn't give him a softball question, confronts him with the fact that he said lock her up before, and talks about, makes the question about politicizing the justice system, which they're all claiming, has happened now, which is totally false because this is a state prosecution, not a federal prosecution. So after that, if it was a good reporter, he would have said, are you saying that you never said to lock up Hillary Clinton? He just let him go on and let the former guy deny that he ever did it. And then there's so many clips of him doing it that it's ridiculous. He started it early on, let his, at first he wasn't specifically saying, he was just fed the crowd, and then by within 2 weeks of the election, go see what he was saying about lock her up. So this is a guy who just continues to lie and lie and lie, and that's where I thought earlier on before I heard Vinny's call is that let's join John from Binghamton and let's put a Trump way, but let's make it the road that goes from Front Street up to the jail, and we'll call it Trump Way. And that way John can have named after Trump, and
that's not right.
Well, I think it's perfectly right.
No.
And then we can call it Winding Way, Liar's Way.
Oh, Matthew. Matthew.
Well, why are you so horrified by a guy that's only president? If people will just go look at, they have it all documented. Every lie he ever told, over 30,000 lies while he was president, all documented, and you can go look.
I know. You don't need to convince me. I can read.
Yeah, so I'm saying.
Yeah.
Most people just seem to deny that this guy is a serial, chronic...
Not most people. Most of his supporters.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, most people... I mean, look at the numbers, Matthew. The numbers bear this out. And by the way, I admire anybody who has the courage of their convictions to support someone who's, now guilty of 34 felonies. I mean, that's your right as an American citizen. But take a close look. Most people, most adults in America don't support this guy, and they never have. So you have to look at the numbers. Just because he won the election in November 2016, it doesn't mean most people, most adults supported him. No, the numbers only indicate a certain percentage of people who actually weren't lazy on Election Day, November 2016, and went out to vote. It showed that most people who cast ballots in the 2016 presidential election voted for him over Brand Hillary. That doesn't mean most Americans supported him. Hardly. The numbers don't bear that out. Not at all. But if you still support him, and it is your right as an American citizen to continue to support him. And I will always defend your right to support him forever. You have that right. You have not only that right, if you support him, I'd say you have an obligation to call this program and explain. I think you should explain. That's your right as an American citizen. You have a right to support him, and you also have every right to call this program at 607-772-1290. Bob Joseph live on Binghamton Now, doing the job nobody else is willing to do because I'm here performing my community service. Oh, no. I'm doing it because I love it. Love it. WNBF. This is the 3rd of June. Time flies when I'm having fun. Gee, it seems just 4 months ago it seems that it was the 2nd of February, and I was looking at that rabid groundhog and saying, oh, please, we need summer. Dave from Vestal, you're on the air.
Yes, sir. Hi there, Bob. Hey, Bob, speaking of flying, earlier I was listening. The Golden Gate boy out there, I think he needs to go over to his bridge and find out if he can fly. That isn't the main reason why I called, Bob.
By the way, no need for that. There's no need. There's no need for gratuitous shots aimed at other callers. So I'll request that you refrain from that in the future.
Okay. And, well, how about in the words of Bob from Vestal, you people make me sick.
All right. Curtail that call. I have no need for that. Show some respect. If you're going to be on the program, show some respect. Jesse and Owego, you're on.
Hey, Bob, what are the chances that two people can show up at the same time and take the same pictures? That's what me and you did yesterday. That was hilarious.
It was the darndest thing. By the way, don't say what we were taking pictures of, because that story has yet to run. So that story...
That's right.
Yeah, so as I say to everybody who listens on the radio, stay tuned to WNBF.com and your local Binghamton Now affiliate. But it's true. I was taking pictures, and sure enough, you're taking pictures at the same place.
That was funny. Well, here's the problem I got, Bob. I'm wondering if I walked underneath the ladder.
Don't say that. Don't say anything else. You're spoiling the surprise. Let's just say you're darn lucky. You're darn lucky that you're not superstitious.
There we go. And by the way, based on the past couple of callers, now I understand why this world is in the situation that it's in.
Did you hear how mean some people are being to each other?
Well, they got what they wanted, so why are they being mean?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Don't be mean. Be happy.
I mean, look at what went on yesterday, Bob. You seen Owego coming together. Isn't that amazing?
There was, there was a big block party, and I had fun. I didn't stay long because I had other places to go, but it caught me by surprise. But I thought, this is a really cool town, and I like their block party.
We had a ton of fun, and Stephen Kim gave me more hot dogs than I can eat. So
yeah. I had a chat with him, and all those hot dogs, good.
He told me, and Kim said to say hi. They go, didn't you run into him? I go, you're doing right. I ran into him on the way home from a beer run.
Yep. So thank you. Yep. It was, as they say, a fun Sunday. John in West Windsor, good morning.
This is Paul.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. So many calls were coming in.
Hey,
okay,
Bob, real quick.
Paul in West Windsor, what's up?
Real quick. On both sides of the aisle, there's a lot of character assassination going on. I would hope that we would hear more about the records of both people and choose the one with the best record. Now, all this character assassination, that's not how you choose a president. You choose by the record.
Exactly. So whoever has the shortest number of felony convictions wins.
Yeah, there's other things too.
I'm not saying it's that simple, but that's one factor. No, I mean, take everything into account. Felony convictions and everything else.
There's a 3-year period that the Democrats have had, and there was a period when he was there. Let's look at their record and how well they did.
Absolutely. That's what this should be about. It shouldn't be about personalities.
Right, I agree. That's all I wanted to say, Bob.
Okay, thank you. I'm with you, man.
Okay.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, it's not a cult of personality. It's not like, oh, I think this guy is nice, or he reminds me of my grandpa, or whatever. Think about the issues. It's the issues, my friend. The issues. That's how you decide who's the best presidential candidate. Hi, WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Happy Monday. DJ from Binghamton. Wow, I've been listening, man. I can't believe how this former guy has these guys in prison. They are bound and in prison. They're in prison for life because that's all they think about. This Matt and Vinny, he's all they talk about, man. They are bound. He's got them in prison. He's all they think about. They call up, I gotta laugh. I shouldn't laugh, but it's funny, bro. They're obsessed with the former guy.
Well, it's the New York Times. It's right here on the front page of the New York Times, the world's greatest newspaper. The headline, the top feature this morning: if a president is a felon, who can stop him?
Have you noticed that? How that he's all they think about, these guys?
Yeah, well, of course. There's never been a president in the history of this great country who's been a convicted felon.
Well, here's the thing, okay? When you mock another man's calamity, it comes upon you. That's the Proverbs in the Bible. So they can mock and gloat and laugh, but you know what? If it doesn't come upon you, it'll come upon their children and grandchildren, brother. That's Bible. I didn't say that. God did. So they can laugh and gloat. I wouldn't. And I'd also pray for Hunter. You know what I mean? People deserve second chances, bro.
I think Hunter deserves another chance. And I think they ought to shut down his trial right now. Because the one thing that they're talking about, they make this claim. I'm serious. They make this claim that he lied on an application to buy a gun. First of all, I know most of our listeners support the right of every American to buy guns. Most of our listeners, if we did a poll, which we're not going to, but most of our listeners support the right of every adult to buy as many guns as they want. So, Hunter went and bought a gun. And the allegation, apparently, is he lied on the application about whether he uses drugs or has an addiction problem. I guess that's the gist of the trial. And maybe he did. In fact, many people are saying he did lie. However, the question, most importantly, you have to ask yourself, how many people did he shoot with that gun?
Tell also the last caller, talk about free hot dogs. They had free hot dogs at the Jesus in the Park, man.
Well, I'm telling you, you can't go wrong. Here's my theory about hot dogs. If you give away hot dogs, everybody is going to love you.
We had them Saturday at the...
Well, I don't doubt it. And I'm hoping that even at the bus station, 7 days a week, I hope that people who are hungry can get free hot dogs.
That's the library.
The library, too. Are you going to hand out free hot dogs at the library and the bus station to those who are homeless?
Oh, Bobby.
As they say, WWJD. Hi, WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. What's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Bob. It's Rob in Fort Crane.
Yeah, what's up?
I was just sitting here listening to all the Trump bashing, and I'm thinking to myself, look at the current guy. This guy and his family set up 20 shell companies to launder money from our enemies, including China, and Donald Trump paid for sex. Big freaking deal.
Well, hey, as they say, two wrongs don't make a right, but... Hi, WNBF. Good morning. You're on the air. This is the lightning round. What's on your mind?
Shalom, Bob. This is Randy from the town of Dickinson.
Yeah.
I was wondering if you had any trouble with your Sunday paper yesterday.
What? It had no news in it? Yeah, it was usual.
No, it wasn't delivered.
Oh, no, mine was delivered right on time, but it had no breaking news. They did finally manage to work in the verdict for the Trump trial, so that was in Sunday's paper. Other than that, though, and I believe Jerry Smith had his contributions, but yeah, no, it was delivered.
Okay, like I said, I just wanted to find out. Like I said, in my neighborhood, it wasn't delivered.
Why don't you call the circulation department up at the press and ask them?
My neighbors into that. I think though they go through the Philippines, don't they? I don't think there is anybody.
Oh, that's right. Their circulation is now in Manila. Yes, you're right. They don't have a circulation department in Binghamton anymore.
All right, thanks, Bob. I just wanted to make sure. I'm glad you got your paper.
I did. No, and it came with the Boscov's ad and all the comics in full color. So it was. I'll say this about the paper. The Sunday paper was exactly what I expected, and it was delivered on time. So I commend the people who deliver my paper, because they have a great track record of delivering the Press and Sun Bulletin. And B, I commend all the people here locally at the Press and Sun Bulletin for all the work they do, because trust me, I'm part of the news industry. I know what's going on. You don't need to tell me what's going on. I hear you, man. I hear you. I know what's going on in the news industry. That's our program for today. Don't worry, I'll be back tomorrow morning from 9 to noon. I'm Bob Joseph on WNBF.